This is the After Party, live with Kim McAllister. Pick a couch, grab a drink, and settle into the conversation.
Welcome to the After Party Live on a Waterfall Wednesday. I appreciate you being here. Thank you again to Wes, who yesterday, right at the end of the show, sent a really lovely holiday message and a $50 contribution to the After Party, and I just couldn't appreciate it more. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And to everyone who contributes via PayPal, so appreciate it. You'll find the link in the About tab here on the After Party Live and in the show description every day. So there is that. And thank you to those who have messaged me by email talking about different stories that they may like to see covered here. You can always find me online. The email address is kim@theafterparty.live, kim@theafterparty.live. Email me whatever you got and I'll take it. I mean, not everything you got, but you know, the good stories. Email me the good stories. Let's see, what do we have? You guys are in the chat. No, here I am. I'm here. Heather says I was only able to catch maybe the last 15 minutes of the Mark Thompson show today. Yeah, you missed a little bit of fun. It was a good show. I think it was a good one. We have another good one on tap tomorrow. David Katz will be on the show. I think maybe Anthony Davis may stop by as well. And of course, tomorrow, in addition to Trivia Thursday on the After Party Live, that's the only thing I've asked for this Christmas is good trivia books. Is the Nikki Maduro show at 5 p.m. tomorrow, cocktails, mocktails, and politics. So I would love to have you join us for that as well. We are growing in subscribership here on the After Party Live. I have to go and see what the current number is, and I'm so happy to see it at 2,374. So we keep creeping our way up toward 2,400 and little goals that I set for myself. So it'll be nice to see more people joining the party. And thank you for joining the party. Let's jump into some of the stories that I have found for you today. And the first one has to do with these really cool handprints and the origin of handprint art. And it's really cool because the story goes into how we love to do fingerprint, handprint, and hand painting art today, and then goes back to the first recorded handprint art. The handprint craze, according to IFL Science, was likely a Neanderthal invention. These ancient hand stencils in Spain were made before modern humans reached Iberia. So they talk about kids loving finger painting, right? And how at one point we've all made imprints of our hand on paper for different art projects. But these hand stencils found in caves across Europe and Asia, a lot of debate about this. Who made them? Why? This type of thing. The most significant collections of archaic hand stencils found in Maltraviso cave in western Spain. And they were produced using naturally present earth pigments like manganese oxide, hematite, magnetite. The artwork apparently not suitable for radiocarbon dating, which means that until now, scientists had no way of actually knowing how old they really were. But in the last decade, we've had this development of non-destructive uranium-thorium dating that has enabled these researchers to finally figure out how old these are. Roundabout, really. They were able to determine the minimum ages of 22 samples of carbonate crusts found on hand stencils at Maltraviso cave. Now, they don't say exactly when the artwork was made, but they indicate their age by revealing the latest point at which they would have been created or could have been created. Some of the handprints were found to be at least 6,000 years old. Others produced upwards of 66,700 years ago. So they say, putting this all in context, that given there's no convincing evidence for modern humans in Iberia prior to 40 or 45,000 years ago that it follows, some of the Maltreviso hand stencils were created by human groups in Europe long before modern humans. And because we know Neanderthals were present in this region 180,000 to 37,000 years ago, that this species is the most likely artist here. The data presented suggests the hand stencils are Neanderthals' inventions. So they were the first to put up the hands, and then we all just kind of got in line. This study, by the way, is published in the Journal of Archaeological Science Reports. I thought that was a really cool picture. Uh, what about this? This story came out a while back, but somehow I missed it. And I wanted to bring you the story of the giant rats of Tanzania. These are big suckers, big, big suckers. It's a African giant pouched rat. Now, whether or not you think it's cute, I don't know. It's a big rat. If I saw it in my house, I would flip out. But they're very helpful, these giant rats. There's a nonprofit. It's called Apopo. It's based in Tanzania. And they're calling these rats hero rats because they're training them to use their sense of smell to sniff out landmines, to sniff out tuberculosis, to sniff out survivors in natural disaster areas. And now they're using these rats, these giant rats, to track the illegal wildlife trade. So they're looking for poachers carrying animals. The wildlife trafficking is the fourth largest illegal trade industry worldwide. $23 billion a year, it's estimated to be worth. Following counterfeit products, drugs, and humans. Wildlife apparently deemed to be a low-risk commodity. Organized crime knows there's a weak spot here, and so they know that we don't really have good detection of wildlife at our ports, at our airports, especially in Africa. So the traffickers have been disguising wildlife products in a bunch of ways. They might make ivory look like wood, hidden within crop shipments, cut up into chocolate bar-shaped pieces, coated in chocolate, wrapped up in packaging, all trying to get past X-ray inspections and visual inspections. But the rats can sniff it all out. They published new research Apopo did, in the journal Frontiers in Conservation Science. These rats have been successfully trained in a research facility to sniff out elephant tusks, rhino horns, pangolin scales, African blackwood. These are some of the most common things that are trafficked out of Africa. So they are suggesting using these giant rats of Tanzania along with dogs, which can already detect wildlife contraband, to really crack down on this crime. They say, unlike dogs, the rats are happy to work with multiple handlers, largely owing to their smaller size. They're much cheaper to train, to maintain, and to transport, which is important because so much of the illicit wildlife trade comes from the world's poorest regions. So they say these rats are on it. They're sniffers. They've got the little rats outfitted with vests. They give them treats after they find something. One of the biggest advantages of using rats is that also their relatively short training time. And other countries are interested in these giant Tanzania rats as well. Singapore, France, all thinking, we got to get in on this rat action. And so I wasn't going to show it to you, but the video is too funny with this little rat in a vest. I have to show this to you. because it's really kind of cute. I think I have it. Okay. Check the sky out. Can you see the sky? I mean, that's pretty cute. So he's got the vest on and he's being rewarded. See if I can make it bigger. No. So it just detected a target, this rat, and it's pulling on a ball to alert the handler. I smell something, but look at him in that little vest. Yeah. So they did they call it a proof of concept study with the rats. And what they say is that at the seaport of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, which 95% of the country's international trade goes through, these rats found more than 83% of targets that had been planted, even when the items were concealed by regularly used scent masking products. So they're making a big difference, these rats, these giant rats. And they said each, like people, each of these rats has a different character. You have animals that might get it on the first try. Some of them take a little more time, but when they figure it out, they say these rats are absolute superstars. So there you go. Here's another story about a study of MDMA. They are using monies, federal monies. I'm sure this is going to kill Musk and Ramaswamy. But the VA has authorized a 5-year, $1.5 million study into MDMA assisted therapy for veterans. The Department of Veterans Affairs says this psychedelic drug may be used to treat veterans afflicted with post-traumatic stress disorder and also that are suffering from alcoholism as well. So they are funding this study into the possible benefits of using this drug, MDMA, to treat PTSD and alcoholism. It is the first VA-funded study of psychedelic-assisted therapy since the 60s. The Undersecretary for Health, Dr. Sharif Elnal, says the VA is on the cutting edge of clinical research for veteran health, including the investigation of psychedelics for mental health. The thought is, he says, this study will give us better insight into the potential of MDMA-assisted therapy as a treatment for veterans. It's a lab-made synthetic that stimulates users, but is also categorized as a psychedelic drug because of the way it alters the visual and time perception. The researchers will be tapped at Brown and Yale universities to do this study, to look at the potential use of MDMA along with psychotherapy in conjunction with the drug to increase emotional openness, reduce fear, promote introspection during the therapy sessions as well. So some of the people in the study will be given a placebo made from a lower dose of MDMA. They're looking for the potential effectiveness of the drug to treat vets in this. They're doing the study at Providence VA Medical Center in Rhode Island. $1.5 million, 5-year-long study. So it'll be interesting. It's, of course, part of a bigger effort by the VA to use scientific studies to determine the potential benefits of not only MDMA, but psilocybin mushrooms, magic mushrooms, in conjunction with psychotherapy to treat PTSD, to treat depression, and possible other problems as well. So we'll see what the studies show. And when you first read it, it's like, you want to do what? You want to spend $1.5 million on what? But if there's a way that magic mushrooms or MDMA or whatever it is can help these people, might as well find out. Let's look at it, right? There's a story about a guy who won some pretty important trophies in the horse world. He's a jockey. And he wins these trophies and then he leaves them in the back of a cab. This happened in Melbourne. And this guy won 3 Melbourne Cup trophies, 3 of them. His name is Glenn Boss. He won them in 2003, 2004, and 2005. And he hops in to a cab and he realizes, oops, I forgot one of my bags. And in that bag, all the trophies. Yep. So I thought we could take a look at this story.
Well, not much surprises taxi drivers, but finding 3 Melbourne Cups in the boot is a rare exception. As Penelope Lear's discovered, thousands of passengers have been reunited with their lost property, including champion jockey Glenn Boss.
It's one of the most prized trophies in sport, and for those who win one, priceless. Times that by 3 for Glenn Boss, who took home the Melbourne Cup hat-trick.
But a champion becomes a legend. Maccabi Debra's won it.
So imagine the feeling when he left them all in a Sydney cab.
It made me sick. I nearly fainted, but it was just like I lost one of my children. It was crazy.
It felt like a lifetime, but after a few hours, Bossy was reunited with the taxi driver, who dropped everything to return his precious cargo, unaware of what it was.
He surprised me. He said, "You know what's in the box?" I said, "I don't know."
So when he pulled it out, he had a look. He nearly fainted himself.
I found out he was a 3-time champion Melbourne Cup Glenn Boss. It was a legend.
Usually, passengers forget their phones, but knife sets, walkers, even printers have been misplaced.
Really strange, large things you would think are too obvious to be left, but they are.
When it comes to leaving things, here in Victoria, we're the worst offenders, losing nearly 3,000 items this year, followed by forgetful Queenslanders and absent-minded passengers in New South Wales. Every day, there's more items handed in. If you've left your binoculars in a cab recently, these might be what you're looking for. Or perhaps you left behind your lunch. This is just a few hours old, and the drivers haven't even eaten it yet.
Please remember to have a little look before you get out of the cab. Make sure you've got all your personal belongings with you, including anything large that you might have put in the boot.
Getty has the same message for Glenn, and this.
Merry Christmas to Glenn Boss. I like that guy. He's a good bloke.
You meet these kind people in your journey in life, and he was one of those really kind people.
Penelope Lear, 9 News.
I actually could listen to the newscast from Australia all day. Super awesome. Let's move to this story. This is the Nebra Sky Disk. How cool is it? I think it's pretty cool. It's a depiction of the oldest sky disk. Took apparently craftspeople 10 forging cycles to create this thing from the Bronze Age. It is considered the oldest surviving representation of the sky. It required 10 hot forging cycles to make, according to a study. And considering the technology way back when, the makers must have valued this very much to put in so much effort to create it. So the sky disk, the Nebra sky disk, shows what's thought to be the sun, the crescent moon, and stars inlaid in gold on this bronze disk. They have a suspected ship down below and a horizon. And it's not thought to be a map, but it is thought to be the earliest example of what's possibly a religious purpose or just a representation of the sky. They don't know exactly why. They do think that tight bunching of 7 stars is thought to represent the Pleiades. And so they don't know why there's 7 of them grouped together like that when only 6 are visible to normal eyes under the darkest skies. But maybe skies looked different back then. We don't know. They've studied this Nebra sky disk since 2002. It is on the UNESCO Memory of the World Register. The manufacturing process, though, they weren't sure how it was made. In the early Bronze Age, items this large couldn't be forged in a single attempt. And so archaeologists and professional metalworkers collaborated trying to analyze how exactly this disc was made. And they published the results claiming it was made using around 10 cycles, each of which involved heating the disc to temperatures of 700 degrees Celsius, 1300 degrees Fahrenheit. This is an era where this was very complicated to make. And the fine design of the celestial objects seems even more impressive when you figure out how much they went through to make this. The temperatures available at the time meant the bronze wouldn't flow sufficiently to make something so thin relative to its width. The analysis showed the bronze was forged in repeated processes, starting with a thicker but smaller blank that was then forged into shape spiraling out from the center. So it's interesting. A small piece of the disc's rim was collected for analysis and then returned, and the collaboration sampled the same spot again that they looked at in 2002 to study its use of energy dispersive X-ray spectroscopy and electron backscatter diffraction to figure out exactly how they did it and the hardness of the metal. So, kind of interesting and beautiful to look at as well. They don't know the true age of the disc. They don't know the important aspects of the culture that created it. But now we do know a little bit more about it. So at least we have that. Lotto of the day, here it is. This is a guy who nearly lost his Powerball ticket to the laundry. He's from Maryland. He said he left his lottery ticket in his pants pocket and he pulled it out right before his girlfriend put those pants into the washing machine. His name is Eric. He said his girlfriend was in the process of loading the washer when he remembered he had 4 Powerball tickets in the pocket of his pants. So he goes, he grabs them really quickly, and he discovered one of those tickets he bought at K Wood Liquors was a $50,000 winner in the Powerball drawing. 5 minutes later, he said she was washing clothes, and he looked back at her and she said, "What's wrong?" He said his pants for the money plans for the money, not his pants for the money, his plans for the money include giving his daughter an extra happy birthday and also saving up to buy a house. So that money will do some good in his life. Exercise. This is an interesting story about exercise that shows the short, intense bursts of exercise can lower a woman's cardiovascular disease risk by almost half. Exercising at a high intensity for as little as 90 seconds a day may protect from risk of a major cardiovascular event. So 90 seconds to exert yourself for 90 seconds, get out of breath at least once a day. That's all we could do that, right? Yeah. Particularly among women who don't exercise regularly. This international study done by the British Medical Journal or published in the British Medical Journal shows that just 1 1/2 to 4 minutes of routine but vigorous physical exertion activity, like climbing the stairs quickly, running up the stairs, carrying heavy shopping bags while you're running up the stairs, almost halves major adverse cardiovascular events, the risk of them in women who don't otherwise participate in structured exercise or sports. They looked at more than 81,000 women and men with an average age of 61 who wore an activity tracker around the clock for 7 days between 2013 and 15. They looked at their hospital admissions and their deaths from heart attack, stroke, and heart failure over an 8-year follow-up period. They were trying to figure out whether the known cardiovascular benefits of longer, high-intensity physical activity in middle age may also be conferred by short bursts of vigorous intermittent exercise as part of someone's lifestyle. And if so, how much do we need to make the outcome for us better? And here's what they found, that women who exercised for 1.2 to 1.6 minutes a day still lowered all major cardiovascular event risks by 30%, and their risk of heart attack and heart failure by 33 and 40%, respectively. So get out there and do that small burst of exercise. Run up the stairs. Run down your hallway. The benefits for men in this were less definitive. Men whose sole exercise was 5.5 minutes on average of vigorous, informal lifestyle type exercise had a 16% lower risk of any type of major cardiovascular event than sedentary men in the control group. But they say they were unable to establish clear associations with those major events. They do say that men who exercised for 2.3 minutes did see a reduction in their risk of all major cardiovascular events of just 11%. So there's something to it. Moving at all in any way is good for us. Speaking of the dudes, though, there's another health related story I thought was interesting, and it shows that maintaining muscles affects your brain health as well, keeps your brain sharp. That maintaining your muscles might be one way to help prevent dementia. The study done by the neurology department at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine in Baltimore found that older adults with smaller skeletal muscles are about 60% more likely to develop dementia when adjusted for other known risk factors. They presented this study in Chicago at the annual meeting of Radiological Society of North America. They say that skeletal muscle makes up about a third of a person's body weight, and that it does tend to shrink as we age. So they looked at how muscle loss impacts brain health. And they focused on the temporalis muscle, which helps move the jaw. And they said measuring the temporalis muscle size as a potential indicator for generalized skeletal muscle status gave them an opportunity for skeletal muscle quantification. So this is how they looked at your jaw muscle would be related to the rest of the muscles in your body. They were able to gauge the size of the head's temporalis muscle by looking at the brain scans of 619 people who averaged an age of about 77 years old. And they divided them into groups with the larger temporalis muscles and then people with the smaller. Having smaller temporalis and by extension smaller skeletal muscles throughout the body was tied to a significantly higher likelihood that that person was also diagnosed with Alzheimer's. They say the smaller temporalis muscles were linked to a higher risk for memory issues, declines in functional activity, and shrinking brain volume. Now, they say they didn't design this study to prove a cause and effect, only that reductions in skeletal muscle are associated with dementia. The findings, because they were presented at a conference and not published yet, are considered preliminary until they can be peer reviewed and put in a journal. But the senior co-author of this study, a professor of radiology at Johns Hopkins, said once a person knows that they're losing vital muscle, that they can use weight training, diet, and other means to slow down that loss. That the interventions could help prevent or slow down muscle loss and then subsequently reduce the risk of cognitive decline and dementia. So we got to lift the weights, I guess. We got to pump it up. We got to pump you up. Make sure you remember stuff. This is also a health study, but this one is being called totally and completely groundbreaking. There is a new asthma medication for people suffering from asthma, and it's the first time in half a century that there's been a new treatment for asthma attacks. They're going through clinical trial results right now, but they show that this new drug called benralizumab is effective at treating acute attacks of both asthma and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and that it actually works better than the current treatment of steroids. There are a lot of people that suffer from asthma, 262 million worldwide. That according to data from the 2019 Global Burden of Disease study. And we know asthma includes struggling to breathe, coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath. And if you're exposed to environmental allergens or sickness, it can get worse. And we don't know exactly how common COPD is, but we do know it's the third leading cause of death. And it happens most often in people over 50. Main cause is smoking, but also exposure to air pollution as well. There are a lot of people that don't survive these diseases. 50% of asthma attacks and 30% of COPD flare-ups are caused by inflammation resulting from large quantities of a type of white blood cell called eosinophils. And it makes you exacerbates the condition of permanent lung damage. But the treatment for asthma, even with that, has been pretty much the same for the last 50 years. They use steroids like prednisone to try to control the inflammation in the lungs and reduce the chances of an attack. But now with the new clinical trial of this drug, benralizumab, done at King's College of London, they say it's given as an injection. And it's now already in use to manage some of the most severe asthma cases. They looked at 158 participants as being high risk of asthma or COPD. They divided them into 3 groups. One got the benralizumab injection, another got a placebo, and a placebo rather. The second got a placebo injection and prednisone pills, and the third received both the new benralizumab injection and the standard steroid pills. After 28 days, symptoms like coughing, breathlessness had significantly improved in those receiving benralizumab with or without steroids. At 90 days, 74% of those only receiving the current standard treatment needed further medical care. But those taking the benralizumab needed fewer visits to the doctor or the hospital and improved their quality of life. It's a big advance. They say it could be a game changer for people with asthma or COPD. They haven't changed the treatment in more than 50 years. 3.8 million deaths worldwide a year combined. If you're interested, find this study in the Lancet Respiratory Medicine Journal. But this could be a big deal for people. I got this next story from Lori, and I thought it was really super cute. It is a story about a runner who decided to do something a little funky with his running map. See if I can find it. Hold on, it's gonna give me. I'm having trouble. I'm having some trouble. Oh no! Did I open it? I don't think I opened it. I'm sorry, you guys. Okay, here I have it. I'll open it up. This is a story about a man his name is Duncan McCabe, and he managed to make some moving art with his fitness tracker. And I have to show you. Okay. So, and I don't know, I can't figure out. I guess they sped it up. But here's what it looks like. Check it out.
It's kind of a way to add creative spin to healthy exercise. So I recorded a series of runs for 10 months in Toronto, just running the same route of a stick man. I compiled about 120 runs into a video, 25 seconds, threw it on TikTok. The internet took over, and it's about 25 million views on Twitter, probably another 15, 20 on Instagram, and the rest. It's everywhere. I wanted to shout out my wife because she gave me the idea for the stick figure. So planned it around Christmas last year, started my first run January 1st, and my last one was October 25th. From a running experience, it's actually a terrible idea because you're constantly looking at the map. You're constantly looking, where do I need to pause Strava to then resume Strava to get the angle that you need? I pretty much always have some creative project on the go. By trade, I'm an accountant. So this is kind of how I get at the end. If you have a creative idea in mind, even if it's weird, even if it's a lot of effort, just try it, put it out there, do it the best you can, see what happens.
Now that takes creativity. And
I thought that was pretty cute. I have another video for you guys, and this one is about the Pope Mobile. The Pope is getting a brand new electric Pope Mobile, and here's how it looks. Check it out. I have video. Here it is. It's kind of cool inside. It's a Mercedes-Benz. They've made a lot of Pope mobiles apparently, but this is the first all-electric Mercedes-Benz Pope mobile. Now, here it is.
Build a one-of-the-kind Pope mobile with a chair for the Holy Father, but also every detail, his crest, the platforms in the back that the Swiss Guard can stand on. We even measure the size of their shoes so we know that it fits, and every detail is perfection.
And there it is. You can see it there. Yeah. So he's got this new electric vehicle. The Vatican is trying to reduce their carbon emissions. And so here you go. Special electric key fob. And there you go. So the Pope has a new Pope mobile. It is time for Waterfall Wednesday. Here it is. Woohoo! Time to relax a little bit. The first video that I wanted to show you for Waterfall Wednesday is one that I found at Disneyland. And I thought about you guys as I was walking to the monorail and I saw this waterfall. I thought, oh, I have to take a video and share it with everybody because it was a relaxing moment for me at Disneyland. And here is the sounds, the sights and sounds. This is the waterfall that is part of the submarine ride, the Atlantis submarine ride, which is located right below the walkway of the Matterhorn. Not the Matterhorn, of the what did I just call it? There it is. I need to lift some weights and improve my memory of the monorail. Yeah. Listen to it though. Yeah, I thought that was pretty relaxing with the light, the blue lights underneath. So that was my after party moment of zen at Disneyland. But I did find another waterfall to share with you, one we haven't seen before. And this waterfall is in India. And I don't know if I'm going to pronounce the words properly, so please, I apologize ahead of time for that. But it is in the northeastern Indian state of Meghalaya. It's called Nokkalikai Falls. Sounds kind of Hawaiian, but Nokkalikai Falls. It's in the Cherrapunji Hills, which is said to be one of the wettest places on Earth. The waterfalls, kind of a sad story, are named after a woman called Likai, who, the legend has it, jumped off the edge of this cliff after learning that her husband killed her daughter. Sad, right? The pond at the bottom of this 1,115 foot tall waterfall turns green in the summer. It, of course, is the highest waterfall in India, the tallest waterfall in India of the plunge type of waterfall. But despite the story, it's really, really beautiful. So this is the Nokkalikai Falls in India. Really pretty. And with that, we conclude our Waterfall Wednesday. Relaxing. All right, I'm going to the chat to see what you guys have to say today. Oh, you guys are having a good conversation. Talking about protein, 1 to 2 grams of protein per pound of body weight, depending on various things. Talking about using weights, light weights, to keep muscle mass up and metabolism up, and 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight will help you do all that. Interesting. Okayest Mama Ever says, my 5-year-old would probably still prefer the inhaler over a needle because he hates needles. Yeah, but if it works so much better, you know? Wow. Yeah, looking at a lot of exercise. You guys talking about a lot of exercise on this. Rev P with mushrooms are great for depression and pain. There have been studies indicating that is the case, and they're still working on it. But I think the VA is really leading the way with research on this that could affect the group of people that need the help maybe the most. Eric says, looking at keeping one of these as a pet, they're quite challenging and not entirely domesticated. Oh, the big rats? You want a big giant rat as a pet? A Tanzanian rat? I don't know. Karen says she had a pet rat that was extremely smart. I could let him outside and he would come when called. Oh no, he hitched a ride with a neighbor. No. Yeah. Teacher Lori says some of my 8th graders did a report on these rats 6 to 7 years ago, the landmine part. We were picking charities for the class to contribute to, and this was one of the contenders. Very cool. What a great project. Yeah. Viewfinder says they didn't seem to know about camel hair paintbrushes. That could be why. See, this is what happens when I start. I pick a chat that's interesting to me, and I don't know exactly where it came from, what you guys were talking about. So interesting. Yeah. Well, thank you for the conversation, and I'll have to go back and read a lot of what you guys are having to say. Harry says I get misty on a Waterfall Wednesday. Well, thank you for being here. Just again, to reiterate, tomorrow on the Mark Thompson Show at 11 a.m., David Katz will be in the house, possibly Anthony Davis as well. Then we'll have Trivia Thursday here on the After Party Live, and that will be followed up with the Nikki Maduro Show, cocktails, mocktails, and politics. I look forward to it all week. So I hope that you will join for 1, 2, or 3 of those shows because they are here on YouTube, easily accessible, and I love to have you guys along for the ride. Thank you to everyone for your support, whether that means hanging out with me here on the show, contributing stories, or financially contributing to the show as well. A huge thank you again to Wes for the big contribution yesterday. And I will see you guys tomorrow on the YouTube. But until then, make it a great Waterfall Wednesday. Bye, everyone.
The After Party Live would like to thank the following contributors and viewers like you.